Welcome, welcome, welcome to Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius, the new disco show of the industry. Jordan, you are setting the bar really, really, really high. Um, and I just want to say I'm in a happy moment. So, like, my heart is like, sort of, what is going on here? But I have two of my favorite people on the show today. And welcome, Monique, back. Welcome back, Monique. And welcome,
Oh,
Jordan,
thank
with
you.
all of what you're doing. Like, there is so much that is
I
going
know
to
this is
happen here. Very, very honored and proud to have RingCentral sponsor this important conversation and discussion, where it is all about how event planners are critical business strategists. And I know that we've been talking about this for quite a bit of time. And I think this time around, we really need to nail down how we can get it where event profs and event organizers are seen as the business strategists that they are, what they contribute on a business level, the objectives, the revenues, the goals. And it is not only about logistics or about breakout rooms and coffee cups and all of that. It's much more than that. So, just for those that are tuning in for the first time, we try to tackle important conversations, but our guests actually are here to help you navigate these murky waters of how to elevate, level you up, get you to where you truly need to be. Good morning, Rachel. And we also want to make sure that you keep following us, because we're going to be taking a lot of the highlights and giving it right back to you so that we can keep tabs on you on what you're doing. So this is not a one and done thing. You are our geniuses, but I'm going to have our geniuses, our speakers, introduce themselves real quick. So Monique, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here again. I'm Monique. I am the Chief Program and Strategy Officer for TED. So, what does that mean? I get to do all the fun stuff. I oversee all of TED's flagship events, its TEDx program, all of its marketing, and all of its brand partnerships and sales for the organization, which I was recently promoted into this role a couple of months ago, where before I was head of events for TED.
Nice, nice, nice. We're going to talk about that journey.
Yep.
Jordan.
hello, everyone. I mean, let's give some confetti to Monique. Let's go. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Jordan. I am the head of sales at RingCentral Events. Prior to being at RingCentral, I was at Hopin for about 2 years, helping huge brands build their event strategy. And I am so excited to be here. I feel like I'm like almost like imposter syndrome with like as a genius up here because I'm with these amazing women on the stage, but I'm going to do my best to hold my own.
You
So,
will. You
You
will
will
hold
hold
your
your
own.
own. Yeah.
You will.
and if I get nervous, I'm just going to throw up like confetti or something. Like that's my
As
plan,
long
right?
as you
Like,
There
don't
you
do the
go.
thumbs
All
down,
good.
you come with your own confetti, Jordan. So like you come with your own production. We're good right
I
there.
love it.
I think everybody is just going to say, what kind of camera does he have? So we're going to have to share that later. That's going to be
Yes.
the most important thing. But so this is all about the journey, and this is all about like, how do I get from point A to point B from an event organizer or an event professional perspective. So Monique, let's talk about your journey, and like, how did you get from point A to point B, especially with the C suite?
I always like to say intentionality is my main heartbeat. And so there came a time in my journey where, I'm doing all of these wonderful things I thought were wonderful things. I was told I was doing such a good job. And all of it was doing was getting me just more work. I wasn't seeing promotions. I wasn't seeing, moving along up on that corporate ladder. And I always saw myself as a leader. And I really, really enjoy being in this industry. I find joy within the events industry. And so I knew I wanted to kind of be here and become a leader in an organization. And so I decided, what do I need to do to figure out how I'm going to get there?
Mhm.
And I created these steps for myself intentionally to say, okay, the skill sets, the showcasing of my value, the connecting to not only the right mentors, but sponsors, they're going to help me with my trajectory. And so, what were the skill sets that I was missing that I consider are good leadership qualities, good business qualities? So, I never just saw myself as an event executioner because I knew kind of what drove value in an organization, because that was one of the things that I wanted to learn about. What makes the CEO see value in the events team?
Right.
And so that was understanding three things. And there were three things I wanted to be known for. I wanted to be known for as a business strategist, meaning I knew how to ideate and come up with ideas and programs that were going to either drive the brand or drive revenue. I wanted to be a leader of high performing teams. And so I really studied what makes a good leader. And then I wanted to be a revenue driver. I wanted to understand, how do I make money for the company, and how do I plug in to make sure there's a consistent line of revenue that's coming in. And so when I put those three buckets together, I was like, okay, what skill sets now do I need to make sure that I can leverage those buckets for myself? And that was like looking at the people in our industry who were doing these amazing things, and then
Right.
looking at their LinkedIn and saying, okay, they did this, they had this skill, they did this job, they had this role, this responsibility. I have that, I don't have this. And so making sure when I was moving up within my career, I was asking, using my voice to ask for opportunities in these areas. So not just doing what this might be in my job description, but can I start doing this and think about this? And this is why it's important that I start doing this, and articulating that. So I was able to get those opportunities. I was able to get that access. And, I went along that journey. And to me, I didn't put like a time. I didn't say in 2 years I wanted to be running these events department. I said each step that I took, I was going to be gaining a new skill set. And as long as I was continuing to grow and gain those skill sets, my value was going to shine to other people, and they were going to recognize and see that within me. But I had to believe it within myself. If I didn't see myself as a business strategist first and foremost, nobody else was going to see that.
That okay.
The feels? Like, did anyone get the feels? I mean, like,
wait,
We got
Jordan,
quiet in here.
we're done. Jordan, we're done.
I mean, if you were going to take something away from this entire session, it was like, advocate for yourself, believe in yourself. I had the feels. I was like, was that? I feel like I was just at a TED talk.
All right, so Jordan, I'm gonna lean on you hard right now, because this is an interesting moment where for like Monique and for others that are looking at themselves as business strategists, that they believe it inside. It's more than just event planning. So that actually is a shift. It's a mind shift. It's like a paradigm shift. And I want to be very out there, because you have to push people out of their comfort zone, right? Because a lot of event profs that I know, they get caught in the minutia. So they don't tend to think that high up or strategize that way. From a strategic partner perspective, like you, when you come in, how can you help with that journey or that transition with the event organizers that you work with, especially maybe in the buckets that Monique mentioned?
Yeah, I was leaning on a lot of the words that Monique was talking about, right? In terms of like tying everything back to revenue, right? And business objectives and demonstrating ROI. And I think for us, that's a lot of what we come in and try to be able to make easier for event professionals, because folks who live in the event world, oftentimes you're doing 1,000 jobs and there's 1,000 tools to be able to kind of start to figure out, how do I actually demonstrate my ROI, right? And you can get lost in almost just the wideness of how you do that, right? And it's like, how am I actually going to go execute? So I think for us, like the big things that we essentially try to talk to event planners about is being able to, one, demonstrate your ROI, right? And ensuring that you have the data and the analytics and those types of things to be able to make those cases when you're in the room. So I think that's the first big thing. And something I really love that Monique was talking about is essentially data-driven decision-making. So you should be using data, right, to show the impact that you have on the business. And if you don't have a way to get that data, that's ultimately where we kind of come in to help, right? To ensure that we're putting that data at the forefront of how you're actually able to advocate for yourself. And then I love what you said about strategic alignment. I think that's a really big thing that not enough people do or don't know how to do, right? Especially in the events world. And I always kind of bring it back to myself. I feel like I never saw myself as a head of a sales at a publicly traded company, right? Like I was selling bevies 3 years ago, water machines, flavored water machines to offices. And
They're really good
really,
machine.
really great water. Shout out to Bevy. And I stumbled into events, and then I found this passion for it. And I found a passion for helping event professionals go out and execute. And what I learned is that I'm not selling technology. I'm selling sort of a tool that allows people to go out and show their impact, right?
Mhm.
And the impact that they have on a business. And what I've learned is that event professionals and folks who just work in events are probably some of the smartest people I've ever met. I've worked with a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of different folks across different business units. So I think being able to go and have those strategic alignment conversations, finding sponsors cross-functionally, I can tell you, I don't get anything done without going to the head of my marketing, right? Or my CRO and different folks like that, and seeking them out. So when I'm in a room and I'm there to actually make my case on my ROI, it's not me coming in saying like, I believe that I have this ROI, right? It's a group effort. And I've got this cross-functional alignment of these people who are backing me. And I think that would be my biggest advice for folks, right? Is believe that you have enough value to seek out and message a CRO and say, I know our events have impact. How can I get alignment with you? So when I show up in that room, we're on the same page, demonstrating my value, right?
Yep. No,
Can
that's
I jump off of that point, Dahlia,
Yes.
a little bit quickly
Yes,
with
of
Jordan?
course.
So, you said, having the confidence to go to your CRO and talk about,
Mhm.
your numbers and your revenue and kind of what you're bringing to the table. I think talking about the point before you get there is you have to understand that if the company is investing in this part of the business, meaning they have an events department, they want to do events, they do events every year or whatever, you are a part of the business. And the belief of understanding like you are a part of the business, you're just not an executioner, you're just not
Yes.
executing on certain tasks or whatever. You have to have that fundamental confidence and belief that you understand the value you bring to the business. And sometimes we don't go the different layers below that to understand how we plug into that. And so that is another tip that I think is really important, is that you know your numbers. You know what you bring to the business. You know the revenue you bring to the business. You know the retention you bring to the business. You know the pipeline that you build for the business. This is all data-driven stuff in the same way Jordan just spoke about. But you have to know that stuff. You can't just whimsically say, okay, I'm going to look at this spreadsheet once a quarter and then you need to know it every step of the way. You need to understand how much percentage you've grown your business, what percentage you've evolved your business. Like you need to craft your own personal story and understanding from a business standpoint so that when you are led into those rooms, you have the language, you know what to say, you have the data. And so I think before you get to the CRO, know your information.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here's also, I think, from hearing both of you, is there is this huge shift of, so I want to step back a bit. Everybody that's listening in and they're inspired right now and they're going to go, woohoo, here, 5 cups of coffee and I'm changing my trajectory. I am changing my.
We're going to have people like knocking on their CRO's doors in like an hour.
I want to be the next strategy officer, damn it. Like here, 3-day weekend coming up, there's going to be a lot of mind mapping happening. So first I want to say, Monique, thank you for not taking the CEO title and taking
the chief events officer, she means.
Chief events officer title, because no organization should really have 2 CEOs in it. But, the strategy officer is a great title because it lends itself to the strategy. And from there, you are able to shape the journey that you want to be part of. Now, I'm going to go out and say, if the strategy officer level is not something you want or seek, then don't do it. Stay in the lane that you know best. And if you don't want to shift gear to go up that level, you don't have to. So this is not for everybody. And is that true or not?
That's absolutely true. I think, everybody has to find what their peace, their joy, their accomplishment is for that moment. People change their minds, right? So just because what you're doing right now, 5 years from now, it might be something different. I have an act 2. I know I have an end game to this events career, and I know what my next career is going to be. later in life. I'm so excited about it, but I'm enjoying, excited about where I'm at too. So you can change your mind and do what needs to be done, as in you enjoy where you're at, you are valued for what you do, and you can continue down this road. And then if you decide to change your mind a couple of years from now, you'll do that too, and it'll be fine.
Absolutely. And so we're speaking to those who have chosen to take the next level. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I also think that you can lean hard on is not only the map or the journey that you put together. Like I always call it a flight plan. You take a flight. This was before the Corona coaster. Corona coaster ruined flights and flight plans because of everything. But like you look at your point A to your point B, mm-hmm. and where you want to be. But I also think, and Jordan, this is where you play in. Yeah. You lean hard on those strategic partners that you have real good relationships with to help you get to that point B. So like when Monique was saying, know your data, know your information before you take that seat at the table or in that room. Bring in your partners. And I think this is also another mind shift for tech companies. Tech companies have always been, here's your platform, here's your dashboard. Yeah. You're on your own, kid. Yeah. Have at it. So like, are you changing that conversation? Are you changing that strategic partnership? Because then others need to follow.
Yeah, I think we are. I think it's the way to like, we very much, right, pivoted away from like, we're just selling you a platform. One of the big ways we did that was we went down a very heavy partnership path. And if any of my partners are out there who work with us, we have hundreds of event agency partners who they help us co-sell, they help us bring ideas to clients, right? And so I think for us, it's less about selling tech and more about selling like the impact of what the technology can do for you as an event professional. And that's the conversations that I encourage my team to have, right? Because anyone can show up and say, let me sell you a bunch of features, right? Like people have been doing that for years, but like, let's sell people the impact that they can have and how we can ensure that. And I just want to call something out because I saw it in my comments and I've had my eye on it, and I just want to make sure. Someone posted, I don't know who it was, it says LinkedIn user, in order to feel you are part of the business, you need to have decision-making power. I would challenge you to lose that mindset because I don't feel as though that's true. Like to feel like you're a part of the business, you do not have to have decision-making power. And if you need someone to champion you, DM me on LinkedIn and I will champion you and show you how you don't have to have decision-making power to feel as though you're a part of the business. I had no decision-making power when I started in events, and I've climbed from an account executive and a BDR to the head of sales for $1 billion company, right? Running events and helping companies execute event strategies. So I had no decision-making power when I started, and I found my voice in something I was passionate about. So I just saw that and I had to make sure I pivoted back to it because we're here to make people feel good.
Thumbs up.
So thumbs up for you, DM me, fireworks. So that's a big thing for me. But yeah, in terms of going back to like your question, for me, we definitely aren't just showing up and selling technology, right? I'm not sitting here jumping into a meeting with Monique, right? And saying, let me show you my registration features. Like I'm not doing that, right? I'm going to show you. Yeah, that Monique's going to be like, no, Jordan, we're not here to talk about your registration features. Instead, what I'm going to show up to, right, to that conversation is let's talk about how all of the data that our platforms help you with, right, or any event tech platform, honestly, has to facilitate conversations with you. How do we get that information back into your CRM? How do we become more of like business technology and MarTech, versus like just a platform that you're running your events on? I think that's the conversation that we're having and that we're putting in front of clients.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, Roberta loves your background effects, so you're having an effect on our geniuses. So that's good. So Monique, share with us, the in your journey, was there a shift in the way you communicated with your C-suite as well as your team? Any advice that you can give there? What was the shift like?
Okay, so there's two things. You have to manage up and then you have to manage down. And, sometimes you have to manage across if you're in a matrix organization. And so when I think about managing up, I really think about what is the language that I need to be using for them to understand what my needs are. And so for my boss, he is a mission-driven person. So I always start with the mission of something. At my former boss, that person was a revenue-driven person. And so I made sure I started off the conversation I needed to from a revenue standpoint. So understanding the language of the C-suite and kind of how do you make sure you grab their ear? How do you perk their listening skills up? And really kind of leaning into that language to kind of kick things off. And then you eventually kind of slide in the other stuff that you need to kind of be acknowledged or talked about or anything like that. But you got to kind of manage up in that particular way. When I talk about my team, I consider all of my team members business strategists. I don't care if you're from customer service, website development, AV, or what have you. You are all an important part of this business because it takes a village for
Right.
anything to be accomplished here. It takes a village for any event to be successful. It is not a one-man band. It is not a one-person show. And so everyone has to be leaning in and thinking about how do I maximize what I'm doing for the betterment of this event. And people love to do good jobs. People love to be acknowledged and get the kudos and feel like all of their work paid off in some way. And so you have to kind of build a culture of making sure that people feel valued, they have a voice, they have opportunity for autonomy. I agree with you, Jordan. You don't always have to be a decision maker for everything, but you are a decision maker for what you do. And you showcasing how successful you are at what you do is just as important as if you had the big decisions that needed to be made. All of my leaders who, I have, I think about 9 direct reports. All
May
of
the
my
force be
leaders,
with you.
I know, but they're all fantastic. So I have no complaints, right?
People are jealous right now that they're all fantastic.
They are. I'm very, very lucky. They are. And so to have that, I treat you like the business owner that you are. And so I'm not in your day to day. I'm not in your weeds. There are certain things and certain milestones we have to make sure we're hitting. How can I be helpful? How can I unclog the pipes? So I know where I need to lean in and where I need to lean out of. And so I'm very lucky that I do have leaders who do see themselves or who have started to see themselves much more as business strategists and how their role is so important to make sure this whole clock works. It's not just one hand for it. Everything got to work together.
I like something you said. Sorry, I mean, I like where you're talking about how you pivot the way you speak about your strategy depending on who you're talking to, right? You found what makes that person tick, right? And how can you start with that? Because this is me coming from like the sales side of things, right? Is almost just thinking of like that's selling, right? And life is selling. I always say everyone is as a salesperson because part of like getting anything done or getting people to do things for you is being able to break down walls. So if you know what makes someone tick or what they're going to respond to, immediately disarmed, right? And then you're able to start talking about your strategy. And I thought that was probably one of my favorite things you just said there is just knowing who you're talking to.
Everything she said is your favorite. What are you talking about?
I know.
There's a love that's going on between Jordan and I.
I'm at my own personal TED Talk. So this is for me, like I'm leaving here with a lot of value, but I think it's great. And I think something else I was going to kind of jump in on that is like, I think that's great to know what like makes someone tick right in a room and like where you're going to be able to kind of like disarm them right away and be able to get your foot in the door on that conversation. And something that I always encourage folks to do is talk about the importance of staying ahead in a market. People run events. You kind of touched on a little bit. People who invest in events are investing in growth and they're investing in events for a reason, right? And oftentimes every business, every C-suite room, I promise you, the conversation in that room is how do we advance our position in the market or how do we stay on top of the market, right? And that's how they're talking, whether it's revenue, whether it's the brand, all of those things, those conversations, if you can come in and paint a picture of how your events, right, or what's happening in the industry, how you can be innovative, right, in your strategy as you approach events, which I've seen some companies doing some really cool stuff from a strategic standpoint with events. I think you are already positioning yourself as so much more than an event professional. You are coming in as a business strategist when you start talking about the brand and the company and essentially how it stays ahead in the market.
Right. So here's a couple of things from just me hearing the awesomeness that is happening here.
Yeah.
Is like you both right now, and I think in the last 5 minutes, almost just got rid of the traditional RFP that we are used to at the moment. So like, everybody is, I'm handling some RFPs for clients at the moment, and they're very traditional. They're very boring. They're very like feature oriented. And what if, like, if they heard this cut the shit show where it's like, okay, what kind of leader do you have? What kind of C-suite? What kind of data will resonate more with them? Are they mission driven? Are they data driven? Are they numbers driven? And you sort of disarm the whole. I've always wanted to get rid of an RFP and all of RFI and all that crap. And I'm,
someone who constantly fills out RFPs and RFIs. I
we're
back
done
this decision.
right now. But so you're tapping into a very different direction. Yes, show me capabilities and features, and that your hamburger icon is not on the right side, it's on the left side. By the way, that's not press release worthy. But what I'm saying is, we're talking at a higher level, because as a strategic partner, whether you're an AV company, a services company, a DMC, or a tech company, what you're doing is you want to help Monique elevate more than the strategy officer, like realm, like up here, like here. Like, and so to do that is like, you come in from a conversation perspective of like, okay, how can I help you do that? That's a very different conversation from a strategic partner. And I think this is where the shift has to be, where, event profs that are taking that journey to business strategists, they have to also not only be able to handle the C-suite or their team, but also the partners that are around them. Because yes, Monique, it does take a village. In our case, it takes more than a village within what we do. But I just think that this is something where if there's any suppliers or any strategic partners listening in, you have to think of how you change your conversation as well. So very, very cool.
Something I was going to I want to piggyback on that, because something you were saying has been making me think about a lot of the conversations I'm having, right? And it's stuff that I'm seeing, like trends and whatnot, right? And it's the RFP thing brought it up, because I'm constantly seeing RFPs come across the table, right? Or just people coming to us saying, hey, I'm looking for something for this specific event. That I wish I never had someone come to me again and say, I'm looking for something for a specific event. I wish people would come, right? Especially if you're a company, right? And you're coming on your strategy and said, I'm looking for a tool who's going to revolutionize the way that we think about our marketing strategy, right? And start having those conversations, because events, there's so much more than events. Like nowadays, like the content creation that you're seeing at events and the way people take this moment in time that happens as a start date and an end time and sort of propel that into so much more. Like that is where I feel like the conversation should be happening when you're looking at event tech or any of these types of platforms, right? Is like not just about the in the moment, the event, what's it going to do for me, but like, what is the long-term strategy of why you even run this event? That's my first question I always ask people. Why do you even put this event on? Like,
or should we just say it now? What is your long-term strategy of running this business?
Yes, very much true. Yes.
Right. Yes. So not even events, because events is one of the objectives or channels now
of the business. Yes.
You're elevating the conversation.
Yes. Yes.
True?
Yes. For me, bring every on every RFP. I would love to see the top 3 objectives for the business, and let's cater every response to that. Right. Like, let's start seeing those types of things and ensuring that then when you deliver the RFP, it's like, here's how this platform is going to make us execute on all of these different strategic initiatives that the business has, and why I know this platform is the right choice versus it allows me to do XYZ as a feature.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So can I just double down on the language, right? And so that when you kind of showed that this is a business, it's not just an event. Language matters, right? If you're speaking about it as, excuse me, in just an executionary form of I just deliver events, then that's what the C-suite are going to see you as.
Right.
And so, one of the things that I always talk about is we have to change up our language in this industry. We have to talk about ourselves as a fruitful and revenue driven part of the business. And so you have to understand the language of what that is, and you have to get access. And so one of the other things is sometimes the C-suite only knows the basics about what you do. They just know you deliver an event.
And
And
sometimes I think it's like always and often they don't
like,
know. They just show up.
and then you try to explain in your language all the things that you're doing for your event. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Did you hit your registration number, your revenue, whatever? They don't care sometimes. And so you have to learn how to speak business language to these people. You have to understand, when do I need to ask, can I be in the room with your C-suite, your CEO, your CRO,
Advisory board,
whoever it is? How can I, quarterly, twice a year or whatever, how do I get to be in the room and really talk about my business from a business standpoint or whatever? And so not just that we had a great event, it was fun, we hit this numbers registration. No. And so as long as you're not using the right language to the C-suite, they're never going to put the right value on you.
Yeah.
100%.
Jordan, do you think that might be a room here or a shift where, you or RingCentral might be asked to be in that room to support your strategy officer?
Oh, we show up all the time, right? Like, that's my favorite thing. I love co-selling, right? I love selling the vision.
You come with your own,
I come with my own animations, and I'm ready to go 100%. And I think something Monique said that, listen, it's scary to do, right? It's scary to if someone's not giving you a seat in a room, it's scary to ask for a seat in a room sometimes. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there, where you have to advocate for yourself, right? Especially if you want to be in those rooms where business decisions happen. It's not running, your event and then saying, here's how all the metrics, right? And delivering it on a PowerPoint. Instead, shift the narrative to say, hey, I would love to have an opportunity to present to the C-suite or to my CRO, right, about the impact metrics that we are going to have from this event and the impressions that we made from not only a revenue standpoint, but also from a brand standpoint, right? And then asking to be able to present that in that room. Don't let someone else do it for you. Advocate for yourself and get that seat, right? That, I think younger folks really struggle with that too. And I think it's a huge thing that, you just have to almost again, you oftentimes have an imposter syndrome of I'm not worthy to be in that room, right? And you are, right? So ask to be in the room.
So before we go on, Joan had a question. In what ways do you think generational, cultural, or other similarities and differences and how we use language impact the conversations?
It's a really good question. And it is a challenge when you are brought up in a particular way, or you haven't necessarily been taught or had access to see how other people kind of get into these rooms and advocate for themselves or talk about business in a particular way. And so that's why I talk about mentorship and sponsorship. You can't do this alone. You can't figure this all out alone. And some of us are like, I'm introvert. Well, I'm not an introvert, but I know some people are like, I'm an introvert. I can't, it's really tough for me to do that. And my thing is baby steps. You don't have to, go all the way to the other end of the spectrum immediately to say, I'm going to talk to everybody in this room, right? You might say, in the next 3 months, I'm going to make sure I find one person that I can ask a question of X, Y, and Z, or, start building a relationship so that next year, they'll become a mentor, a sponsor of mine or something like that. It's a journey, but you have to take the steps to start doing that and start understanding that and seeing and getting advice and getting access and being in the rooms to see how other people kind of perform around this. You can't just think in your mind you're going to figure it all out, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so you have to kind of put yourself in those spaces that will help you figure it out.
Something you talked about at Event Tech Live, Dahlia, kind of inspired me, right? Because
other than me karaokeing to Beyonce, because that was a big hit.
That was inspirational. And if anyone can figure out how we get to play Beyonce on LinkedIn Lives without copyright infringement, we would love to know. But you did say something that goes back to the mentorship piece, right? Especially as a new leader, someone who's also new to events, right? And event technology and all of that. Mentorship and seeking out folks who've been in the industry has been crucial to me. It's why I come to this on a weekly basis, right? And show up and I'm in the comments lurking. So for me, it's been huge. But I love one of the little strategies. It's almost like, how do you do it, right? Because it's like, one, make the small goal of doing it. And you had shared something about how you like send like 5 messages every Friday, right, to people and just check in, right? Or you like make it, it's an intentional goal to connect with X amount of people on LinkedIn. And I think something like that, if you're sitting here watching this today and you're like, I don't even know where to start, right? Like, how do I find a mentor? It's going to be something as simple as that, of going through the list of the people in the comments here today and messaging them and saying, hey, like, just wanted to connect with you because I saw you at Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius. I've done that multiple times from this show, and I can't tell you the impact that it has had on me personally in learnings from coming to this and meeting people in this event every week who are wanting to help, right?
Yeah. I take a lot of joy in that.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's just either check in on people, to check in on their progress. I'm a big believer, and I do this quite often, is I want people to have their own strategy. So they need a strategic plan. And there's a lot of wonderful event profs within our community and within our network and in our space that they are just churning right now. And they're losing what makes them happy. They're losing their voice, and they feel like they're a failure, and they're not. What they need is, they need to pause, and while they're doing strategies up the wazoo for all the other events and all the other leaders, that is just like for them because they have to. Well, they have to look at doing one for themselves first. And I think we need that more than ever right now. And what Monique was saying is, it is all about intention. If you have an exit plan, or if you have a career detour that you plan to take, then work that into your strategy. I think what causes anxiety and what causes that sense of heaviness is where you don't have a plan, and you have a plan for everybody else, and you keep spiraling. And so part of that is your network. Like, who are you helping? That becomes an intention that is part of the plan. It will pay itself a million times over if you have these wonderful people around you. Like, I have Monique, and I have you, and many others that show up for the Cut the Shit show. But I think it's needed right now because of that elevation that we're doing for ourselves and for others.
I love it. In the spirit of being a little sappy right now, can you see what's on my wrist right now?
So it's the evil eye bracelet.
The evil eye bracelet that Dahlia gave me at Event Tech Live. So
I give that to everybody. Monique, yours is coming soon.
Okay.
So, don't worry, I got you. So, but here's the thing: when you have a strategy, and when you have the intention, and you know the direction that you're in, and you're upskilling, and you're doing all the right things, what happens when all of a sudden you keep being like pushed down, ideas are not taken, your voice is not heard over and over again? Because that is a big downer for many of our event profs. Like, what do you do there? Like, what do you do to process it and then get through it and get on, or get out?
So I think, Jordan, were you going to say something?
Nope, I'm letting you have the floor.
I think another disservice that we do to ourselves is not thinking about present me and future me at the same time, and knowing that I need to be building foundations right now for future me. I'm doing that for myself, but people need to think about themselves as, how am I plugging in to make sure my value is seen in present me? And how do I make sure that there's smoke signals out here in the industry within the different networks that I'm building, to know that I have value for future me, and you would be lucky to have me on your team. And so really kind of thinking about, how do you kind of showcase those things in various ways? Because I work for a company. They can fire me tomorrow. They can let me go tomorrow. but I have no less than 10 plus people I can make a phone call to that I have been building a strategic relationship with to say, I'm out here. I'm free. You
Yep.
want me, you can have me. Like, so it's just like but I've been building and nurturing those relationships for years
Mhm.
and years and years, because I am thinking about future me. And so I think if something is not working for you where you're at and you're doing everything that you need to do to
Mhm.
showcase your value and you're not being seen, you got to go somewhere else. Or you got to
Mhm.
think about what that next step is. You can't be afraid to be tied down to something, because I always say my company get the value of how I care about delivering and being successful at delivering the programs and initiatives that I lead. I
Mhm.
personally do that for myself, and the company gets the value of me doing that for myself. And that's kind of how I look at myself. So as you can see, I worked really hard in this industry to make sure that I deliver, I have real value, I can be strategic in my thinking, I can build relationships, and if I can do it for you, I can do it for somebody else. And I always believe that. And that there's nothing anyone can say to make me doubt that, because I've been through the trenches, I've made the mistakes, I've had to take the pivots, I had to build myself back up from disappointment. So I know I can get through whatever it is you're going to throw at me, because I've been done it. And so I think that's kind of how you have to think about your journey within this industry, or your journey within any career that you're doing. Think about how you're preparing for present you and future you at the same time.
I need confetti. I'm gonna get my confetti gun.
Yeah, I was like, you need the confetti gun. Again,
Confetti gun.
another mic drop moment by Monique. We're gonna have so many good clips after this. I'm obsessed with that. And I think I think
But Jordan, from your side, like
yeah,
when you do like the calls and the sales, and
yes.
even Kristen, I see you. Like even
She's
with
in
like
here.
your some of your clients, doesn't this change the conversation? Like the whole relationship and the whole conversation is about you building on that strategy that
Yeah.
your client comes in. You both and we've had this before on a
Mhm.
previous session with Jay and the Guru conferences.
Yes.
You've built it to a point where it's like it's almost as if you are part of their strategy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, 100%. When everyone was saying, right, like Jay's a great example of everyone was saying virtual's dead, digital events are dead. And we're like, no, they're not. Like no one who really understands the impact is gonna be like virtual's dead, or I'm completely pivoting, right? Jay has done something incredible with those guru events and how he has built those up in a virtual way, and the engagement aspects, and sort of just what he's been able to do in partnership with RingCentral for those events. And we worked very closely with Jay to execute and ensure his ideas become realities, right? Because he's saying, how can I use the technology, but customize it, and how can we work together to make this really impactful for attendees, right? It's never about us and Jay. It's always about attendees who are going to show up. We want them to have the best experience. How can we work together as the technology and then the team putting on the event to ensure that we show up in that way? And I wish all my event professionals were as passionate about Monique, because I think that is, I mean, that passion, I think that is what makes your events probably so great, right? Is that it's not the technology you use, it's not the, company you work for. You could be running a, $2 million ARR company with small events with under 100 people. And if you have the passion for those events to be impactful and great, like, man, the impact you can make. And it's really refreshing, I think, to hear you say that. I felt it back here in the backstage. So I can only imagine what people on the front are feeling of like, yeah, I'm passionate too, and I'm going to crush it. You know what I mean? Like, I was hyped. Like, it was great. So I hope everyone finds that passion, because I think it's super impactful.
It's kind of interesting because I mean we're here talking critical business strategist,
I know.
right? Strategist officer. We're talking blah 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 blah. And in my head I'm like, we're talking passion, and we're talking emotions, and we're talking intention. And by the way, guys, today's a full moon. It is the 23rd. Leanne, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This moon is going to, like, the crazies are going to be out. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
Monique, you're looking at the event that's happening right now in your studio, right? How many people do you have next door for your event?
It hasn't started. It hasn't started yet. It's in a couple of hours. We're just in setup mode.
But how many people are you expecting?
About 100.
Okay.
Nice.
Put blindfolds on all of them until they sit down, because anyway, but what I'm saying is, like, this whole, I don't want to say touchy-feely, but it's like almost like you have to dial in to what your real self is telling you. And then that whole direction and that whole plan and that whole strategy and everything else will fall into place if you want it to. Full moon and water on the windowsill and sage and all that good stuff. Tonight, it's a full moon, Leanne. But
that passion, though, is what gives you the confidence in that room, right? Like, Monique is able to walk into that room with everyone.
That's the fire.
Yeah, and it's the passion that she has for events and the passion she has for what she's built that allows her to sit in that room with such confidence and talk about her data and talk about the return on investment she has, right? So it is they do coincide. It's not, you don't have the confidence to do that if you aren't passionate about what you're executing on, right?
Right.
I just wanted to say it out loud, because I don't want, our geniuses in the commentary saying, so you want us to manifest and you want us to do this and that, and like, oh, I thought I was going to have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step in order for me to be the next business strategist. No, it's up to you, but it's like, everything has to click through.
Yeah.
And it has to be your true self. Honestly, like we said in the beginning of the session, is if you are not wanting, and the passion is not for you to be the business strategist, it is okay. You do you, but make sure that you have a strategy of what your next transit stop is on your career flight.
That's right.
Because that is what's needed at the moment. I think when I talk to event professionals, event organizers that are knee deep in like minutia and the company not having the right leadership, or the company not having the right strategy, or events that have just gone like, oh my God, what happened? And they get in that turmoil and in that tsunami of, it actually becomes emotions. They can break down, but they never are able to build themselves up again to really realize where they want to sit within the entire business organization as well. And if the C-suite, go ahead.
No, I was going to just jump off, and I'm sorry to interrupt. But also, I think you have to be clear, like, if you're not interested in moving up into that business strategist role, you still need to be clear about the value you bring to the organization. I don't care in what seat that you sit in, because for the simple fact, let me talk about my, customer engagement, customer service team. They have a lot of value to me. And the reason why they do is because they are the first group of people that my attendees have to engage with. And if they have one bad experience with that team, we hear about it and it affects our NPS numbers, right? So for them to do what they need to do and go above and beyond, I see that in my NPS numbers. Their value is extremely important to me, because someone can have 30 things go right, and that one thing that goes wrong for that attendee, that's what they're going to talk about. That's what they're going to complain, and that's what they're going to punish you for.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, everybody has value, but you have to know how you articulate your value to your team, your leader, and this organization as a whole.
Yeah, and something you were saying about earlier of like, what if someone doesn't recognize your value, right? Like, what if someone in the room, right, doesn't recognize it, right? And you're making a plan. But also, the path to the C-suite isn't linear. So like, if someone's shutting you down in one room, go kick in a door in another room, right? Like, I can tell you that I have been shut down many times going one direction, found another champion somewhere else, and went around them and made my way, into a room that I needed to get into. I think that's always important to remember too, is like, the path up isn't linear, right? It might have a couple twists and turns and hoops and all of that.
And on that note, Kristen says, if you are constantly being shut down on your ideas, get into another room.
Yes. Yes.
So like-minded people. I wonder why, how. Okay.
Winning.
Yeah. Okay. So in regards to leveling up to business strategist, let's talk about upskilling for a second. Not only for you, for those that want to level up, but how do you do it for your team, especially with all the buzz and the noise and the craziness that is not only from tech or AI side, but like even interpersonal skills. So what do you focus on? And I know, Monique, you said you look at the skills that you need to work on within buckets. Like how do you prioritize time and prioritize that list, and how do you do it for your team?
Yeah, and it's work. And so, people are like, listen, I'm tired. My full-time job is enough work for me. And now you want me to be thinking about something outside of just these things, these checklists I have to go through. It's work, no doubt about it. But there is a payoff to it. And it does move you up within your career when you do think about what am I going to be known for? That's the first thing that I think about anytime I go into an organization. It was one of the reasons why I think I was able to get promoted within TED within 2 years, is because I was like, what do I want to be known for in this organization? And it was those 3 things that I talked about before. I'm a business strategist, I'm a revenue driver, and I'm a leader of high performing teams. What do I need to do to showcase that to leadership and to the entire organization, that those are the things that I bring to the table? And I was able to do that by strategically thinking about, when do I need to plug in? When do I need to highlight? When do I need to make sure I bring certain people along on the journey? What do I need to do? But I also had to think about my team. My team, have been together for a very long time. And I wanted to make sure that other people know they're business strategists as well. But I had to give them space to kind of figure out what that can look like for themselves. I had to make sure I gave them space and opportunity to plug into the strategy. So making sure in our all hands and in our meetings that we did breakouts to say, we need to solve this solution. Everybody must participate. I don't care what role you're in. All of us are going to take a vote on the best ideas. And we're going to do that constantly each and every time, because our goal is to one up ourselves. We don't, not our competitors, but we did this, how we keep leveling up every single year. And that has really helped in building their confidence, and helped in building their language, and helped in building their focus, because I actually carved out space in our day-to-day for them to plug in and do that. How are you carving out space for your team to plug into the overall strategy? Not just your directors, not just your leaders, everybody. And what can that look like? So I think for me, leveling up is, work, and understanding it takes work, intention, planning. All of that stuff is extremely important, but it is valuable and it does pay off.
Fantastic. Jordan, what about you? Any comments?
Yeah, I was going to, one, I feel like you're probably just an incredible leader. I already knew that from this, but it's clear you set the tone for your team. And it's interesting and exciting to hear the way that you are up leveling and doing that. Something that I'm really passionate about as a leader, right, is how do I take my team, regardless of what happens here, and build a brand for them and help them build a brand, right? And what are they going to be known for? And I think that's really, really awesome the way you talked about that, because that's something I think about whenever I join a new team. I think about, I want to be known for impact. I want someone to know that if Jordan's on something, it's going to drive impact. Like, that is my number one mission in every single thing that I do. Yeah. And in talking about what you were talking about, like with the breakouts, a really cool thing that my team has done is I've tried to make up leveling and like these types of things really fun. Like every Thursday we do a LinkedIn workshop, because I want my team to build a brand. And it's not about sitting here talking about RingCentral, right? That's not your brand. Why do you work at RingCentral events? Why, right? And I have someone on my team who told me, I love community and I love the feeling that people get when they go to an event. And that's why I joined Hopin. That's why I joined RingCentral. That's why I want to be here. So I said, write about that. Write about when you sell a deal, right? The feeling that it gives you when you see that event go off, and then they're talking about the success of it, right? And so I really resonate with that, because that's something I'm really passionate about right now with my team, is focusing less on like selling the tech and the features, but like why we do this. And that's to drive impact, right? And so talk about that on LinkedIn. Build a brand for yourself. So I just thought it was really cool. So that's my thoughts on that.
Awesome. Love it. But so before I let you both go, Monique, I want to talk about EVG for a second, because I want to see I can now see it, why it's part of your strategy or your life journey. And I don't want to like sound like I'm talking in code to others, but so Events Venture Group is a brand new group that is all about new events. And you and the board, and disclaimer, I am helping you with some PR magic and fairy dust on all of you, but tell us about the group and about the timing of this, because I think it's almost like a magical moment that's happening, and it's a holy shit moment for me because it's coming at a very interesting time within our industry.
Yeah, I think, one of the reasons why I joined the group, as you probably could see, I am very passionate about this industry.
Yeah, just a
Very
little.
passionate, just a tad. And so, when Marco kind of came and kind of talked about, and me being from the fintech world, I used to run Money 2020 USA, that event, knowing that
A little
sometimes
event.
a little event,
Yeah.
when someone is trying to start something up, it's really hard to do without the proper investment, insights, and mentorship. And in these different industries, you have these communities and these groups that are willing to kind of help you along in growth. And we didn't really have that for the events community. And so when that was kind of brought to the table of like, let's be the change we want to see, I was super excited about it. I wanted to join it. And it just gives an opportunity to say, you might have an amazing idea. You might can really change the trajectory of our industry, of our business. You might be additive to our business, whether it's from a straight event standpoint or a tech standpoint. Whatever the case is, you should bring something to the table that will get the proper investment, mentorship, and insights. And that's what the Events Venture Group is willing to do for this entire industry. So I'm super excited about it. I'm glad I'm on the board. I can't wait to see kind of the different initiatives that come to our table so we can start really like funding those and pushing those along. But it's all about the passion and the growth of our industry for me.
So the reason why I also wanted to mention it, this is not about a shameless plug or anything like that, is because this whole program was about, if you do not find your role or space in being a business strategist within the organization that you're in, and you probably have some ideas on some other type of events, because that's always what happens, that you are not really passionate of where you are because you have something else in mind. This is the launch pad opportunity. And so if you have the intention and the passion to launch something that you've been dreaming of for a while, because I actually have one of those dreams, so thank you very much, is, go to another room, like Kristen was saying, or go to a group that can help you make that into something real big. So thank you for that. I think it's an amazing, yeah, Kristen, we all love Marco Ghiberti, and it's fine. And, he knows. So it's all good. This has been a fantastic conversation, and
It really has.
so many like mic drops and confetti moments and disco moments. Are we good with the disco? Are we rolling the disco?
We can have one more.
We can
Here
have
we go.
one more. Exactly. As long as you don't. Oh, do the thing.
Oh
Do
wait,
the,
yeah. I just
all
want to
right.
say one
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't go far enough. Hold on.
But
There you go.
It's been a pleasure. It's my
Been fun.
impactful moment.
Monique, thank you. Thank you so much. And good luck with your very small, little, tiny event that you're doing right behind that closed door that is behind you. I love you so much, and I adore you and everything, and like just everything. Jordan, thank you so much for being on the Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius show. And thank you, RingCentral, for sponsoring this amazing conversation. So many insights. And I think we've powered up a bunch of people either to leave their jobs right now
We're
or
gonna have people
tell
and
their
be like,
C-suite
everyone
to,
went to
like,
this event and then came and quit.
you
I
need
quit.
that as a gesture, is like flip them off. I don't know, but you'll never know until the DMs keep rolling on LinkedIn. So let's keep it rolling. Have a wonderful long weekend, and we will see you again on the Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius show. Mwah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Oh my God. Oh, we got one version. Oh my God, this is fantastic. Ah.